Hello. Okay, so I'm creating this to answer the questions that I kind of got about like pregnancy and labor and stuff. So I'll make it quick. I'll start off with the question about everyone, honestly. A lot of people, they asked me about how the labor experience was, and then breastfeeding. So I'll share a little bit about that. So I'll start off with breastfeeding because then, you know, if no one really wants to listen to my whole labor experience, then you don't have to. As far as breastfeeding, it's been actually doing really well. He latched from the beginning, like the moment he was born. Here's my dog. The moment he was born, he latched on. The first 3 days was excruciating, and the first 2 weeks was hard. Oh my gosh, it hurts so much. Like, I wanted to quit. It just felt sore, and like it bled a little bit. It was just, but I knew it. I'm like, as long as I could push through, from people that I've talked to and like the research that I've made, it hurts, but you get used to it. So I'm like, I just have to focus. And every time people like latch on, I'm like, ugh, this hurts. But I pushed through, and yeah, within like by the end of the second week, it was like easy peasy. Like, you feel him latching on, but it wasn't like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I feel like crying, or just, yeah. It's been a ride, but now it's like pretty cool. I would say that what helped, like on the third day, like at one point it felt hard as a rock. Like, I went to lay down in bed, and then I went to sleep on my side, and my boob just like dropped like a rock. I'm like, oh, this hurts. So what I did was, my mother-in-law, she's amazing. She had like this red pouch, and you would boil water, and you will pour the water inside the red pouch, and you would just like, put it over it, and it was like hot, but not like super hot. Like, the water was hot, but the pouch doesn't make it like unbearable. So I just kind of laid down, and like I had it on me, and it felt like amazing. Like, it helped kind of like I'm trying to say, because it was hard, so having that warm something hot kind of just helped it dissolve. That's the word I'm looking for. So that was amazing. And also the hospital gave me these ointments to just put it on, and it helped like soothe, which it did. But another thing that when I was researching that I heard was that because it's moisturizing, so if you get the ointment and you put it, it's like keeping it moist. So it's not necessarily, it would just, the healing process would take longer, because it's getting sore and it's a little painful, and you put it and it helps, but then he goes back on. So it's like the same thing, versus if you like write it out, basically like you just get used to it. But the ointment did help, but I did stop after a while, because it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna try to write this out. Or they have like cooling pads that you could put it on, and that helps with the soreness too, whenever it hurts too much. The warm the hot pouch helps to dissolve when it's really hard, but the cold thing that they sell, I literally forgot the name, but anyways, like, it's just this thing that's like a pad. That's what I'm saying. It's like a cold pad, and it's like a cooling pad. You can get it at Target or Walmart and stuff, and then you can put water in, and then you freeze it, and then you put it over you. That's like amazing. I think he's wanting to wake up. I think, yeah, he's good. Yeah. So about my labor experience, which I absolutely had an amazing time. It didn't go as I wanted to, or like how I planned to the T, obviously, because nothing goes how you plan to the T. I knew that going, from the beginning. I just knew going into it. But from the beginning, like, I really wanted to have an epidural-free labor and delivery experience. That didn't happen. which I can, at the moment, making a decision to get an epidural, like, am I, should I really do this? Like, it took me like a minute to process it, of like going through that ride of like disappointment. Like, am I really gonna go through with this? Like, am I gonna get this epidural? I really didn't want to. And I remember asking my husband, I'm like, would you be upset if I did? He was like, of course not, which was like a really silly question to ask. But at the moment, like, you have all these feelings like happening. He was like, I love you, and whatever decision you make, like, it's your body, like, you know what you can handle, or what makes you comfortable or not. So if you want to go through with it, like, go through with it, with getting the epidural. And so I did decide. But anyways, like, going back from like the beginning, my water broke on a Monday, which was November 11th. He was born November 12th at 9:36 a.m. So my water broke at like, I want to say like 10:40 something, like 11 o'clock maybe at night. And first of all, I didn't know this. So once I got to the hospital, I was like, water keeps coming out. Is this like normal? She was like, yeah, it's gonna keep coming out until you deliver him. And I'm like, no one told me that. So I know that everyone's story is different, and a lot of people, their water doesn't break, and then like by the time they get to the hospital, then the doctor would break their water or induce labor or whatever it is. So in my situation, my water broke at home. And when I tell you, like, my husband jokes around like crazy. He's like, it literally looked like you had a third leg. I had water coming out like a waterfall. It was so crazy. And at first, like, I didn't know. So my water broke. I was actually on my bed, like, we're getting ready to sleep, and I was like, are you kidding me? And I stopped because I thought I was gonna pee, but then I realized that water kept coming, and I just remember like just being there, like, shook. And then he was like, did your water just break? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like crying because at that moment it hit me like, wow, this is it. This is where I face labor, which is so scary, and this is where I get to meet, you know, the love of my life. So I went to the bathroom. Like, I watched plenty of videos. People like take baths. Like, I'm gonna take a shower. So I took a shower, and it felt good taking a shower. But when I got out of the shower, as soon as I stepped out and I dried myself off, like, water kept gushing out. And I'm like, okay, well, the shower was pointless. And I'm like, why is this happening? So I kind of at that moment too forgot like what to do and what the steps were. So then I called the hospital. I was like, hey, this is what happened, my water broke, like, what should I do? So she was like, well, you know, keep an eye out for your contractions. Definitely don't take too long to come to the hospital. But yeah, like, once your water breaks, like, once you get to the hospital, like, you're not leaving. So I was like, all right. So we had time. I had his bag packed. My bag wasn't packed. My husband's bag wasn't packed. The only thing in my bag was PJs. So I'm like trying to figure out like what to take. And I'm like going from our room to his room to get his stuff. And then like coming back in the living room, I had to pause. I was like, just, the water just kept coming out. I just thought, and like was like, Phil, like, I need a towel. And he would bring a towel and he would put it on the floor, and I would just stand there like, okay, like, when is this gonna be done? I changed pants twice. I changed underwear 3 times. One tip, because you don't know if your water is gonna break at home or not, I would highly recommend adult diapers. Like, have that ready in case your water breaks, so you can put the thing on, so you can make it to the doctors, to the hospital, whatever. Because when I tell you, it was like one of the most annoying part, because I'm like, this doesn't stop coming out. So anyways, Phil was like, that was the one time Phil was going like, kind of like, he didn't know what to do. Throughout the whole experience when we got to the hospital, he was so supportive, he was so calm, he knew exactly what to do. But when my water broke, that was the one moment, the only moment that he freaked out. He went into every room of the house. He went into our bedroom, the nursery, the bathroom, the other bathroom, the kitchen, and then all of a sudden he stopped. He was like, okay, what am I doing? What do I need? And he's like trying to like talk out loud to process. It was the cutest thing. It was like one of my favorite memories. But anyway, so we pack everything up. By the time we head to the hospital, it was probably like 45-50 minutes after my water broke, which I wanted to take longer, because when I left the house, I just started feeling contractions. It was very, very mild, you know, like more than 7 minutes apart, really random. But I got a little bit scared because at one point when I moved my foot, there was like a puddle of water, and then I saw a little bit of blood, but it was transparent, which now I know that's not bad. What's bad, he keeps hearing things. What's bad is the idea of if you are bleeding, you know, a lot, or it's like blood. It was just a little red and it was like transparent. But at that moment, I'm like, I never had a kid before. I was a little not scared, but I'm like, I just want to make sure he's okay. So I wanted to go to the hospital right away. Which rules of thumb is like, especially if you don't want to get an epidural, try to stay at home as long as you can. One of the things that the doctor recommended, like typically it's you would go to the hospital when you're feeling a contraction every 5 minutes and it's a minute long. And if you really want to avoid getting an epidural, then she said to stay home a little bit longer than that, which say hi, which I obviously didn't do neither, because I was like, okay, let's just go. So we went to the on a hospital. We stopped at Wawa, like get some snacks, some banana, and you know, like granola bars and whatever, Gatorade. And I started feeling them, the contractions, I would say every 5, 6, 7 minutes, still random. It was a little bit more than when I left the house, but still very mild. I could laugh, talk, keep my eyes open, whatever. So by the time we get to the hospital, it's like close to midnight. And then they checked me on the triage. Once they checked me in, they saw that I was only 2 centimeters dilated. So she was like, obviously you need to get to 10. So let's just wait it out here until there's a room ready upstairs and when we're ready to move you up. So I stayed on the triage like from midnight, close to midnight, because we got there close to midnight, up till 2 o'clock in the morning. And I started to feel the contractions every 5 minutes then, but they were intense, like not excruciating. I definitely could handle, but I definitely had to like close my eyes, like breathe. My husband would have to come and like give me a massage every 5 minutes on my lower back. I don't know how other women felt, but the best way that I could explain it, it felt like the really worst, you know, cramp you've ever had in your entire life, together with like this lower back pain. So at the beginning, it just felt like, oh, my lower back hurts. Towards the end, and again, this never happens. This is like the best way I could describe it. I was telling people, it never happened to me, but it literally felt like someone was like on my lower back, like breaking my bones, like piece by piece. And that's when I was like close to labor. That's just how it felt. But anyway, so at the triage, like I was having it every 5 minutes. So I had to like close my eyes. I felt the lower back pain, and my husband would come and he would like give me a massage, and it would help, and I was able to breathe through and like focus. So they moved me up to the labor and delivery room at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was still at 2 centimeters dilated, and then the nurse came and she was like, well, we're gonna get you started on a Pitocin because you're not dilated. And I was like, do I have to get the Pitocin? Which I've heard that before, like, you know, once you get the Pitocin in, like it takes whatever you're feeling times 10. It's like times 10 worst. And he's sleeping, baby, it's okay. So I'm like, and I know that that's what makes people to make that decision to get the epidural, because then you feel it and you feel it a lot. And it's not necessarily your body's like building up to the, you know, more intense contractions by itself. You making it basically happen faster. So I questioned the nurse and I was like, do I have to do it? And then she was like, well, you don't have to, but we're recommending, because you're still 2 centimeters dilated. You could dilate to 10 in a matter of like out of nowhere, but it could also be 20 something hours. So it's really up to you. So at that moment, my mom was talking to me and I got a little worried, because she said that the reason why she had a C-section with my sister and I is because the whole time she stayed right at 2 centimeters. And then she wasn't dilating at all. So they decided to give her a C-section. So I went and said yes to Pitocin. Like the nurse said too, she was like, it's gonna, whatever you're feeling, you're gonna feel it times 10, but it's not gonna go from that moment right away. You're gonna feel it. So it started building up. So every time I would have a new contraction, it would hurt more than the last one. So then at close to like 5 o'clock in the morning, it was like really, really intense. Like my whole body like was shaking. My husband said like I could tell in your face, because they first thought it was like your body shaking, but it was like your face as well. So I would like close my eyes and I would just feel my whole body like shivering, and I felt like I wanted to throw up, but I didn't throw up, but I felt like it, and I really wanted to cry. And I knew that I was getting close to the moment of like, I'm about to cry because it hurts. And I knew that if I cried, I was gonna lose control. Like I wouldn't be able to, keep just focus on I can get through this contraction. And basically what happened was, at this point too, now it's like Tuesday at like 5, close to 5 o'clock in the morning, and I went to work on Monday morning. So I woke up Monday morning at 7. So it's 5 o'clock in the morning almost on Tuesday, and I am so tired. So tired. And between each contractions, like my body wanted to fall asleep. So I'm like slowly dozing off, and all of a sudden, like I would just feel like the contraction would hit. And because I kind of like fell asleep in between the contractions, or my body was trying to, I didn't really prepare for the next contraction coming. So when it came, it was really hard for me to handle it. And then again, my husband at the time, every time I would have a contraction, like before I'd be like, okay, it's coming, and then like he would come and give me a massage, but automatically he would just come like right when my contraction was about to start. He would come and give me a massage on my lower back. He just knew it was like perfect, and he would finish giving me the massage when my contraction was like going away. He kind of just knew that, and I love him for it. Like, I'm kidding you not, like every minute and a half, he kept standing up of his chair to the point that he just got his shirt around and he would just do it. He's like amazing. But anyway, so it's 5 o'clock in the morning. They check me. I'm 4 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, I want epidural. And that's when I asked my husband how he felt about it, and he was very supportive. And at that moment, once I made a decision, like I did not regret it at all. I don't look back and I'm like, oh, I wish that like I didn't, like I was so weak. Like no, like I went in knowing that, first of all, there's so many things that could happen. So you might need to get one, or it might really just hurt and you want one. And it really did hurt. Like I really tried as much as I could, and I stayed up till like 5 o'clock in the morning trying not to get it. But I knew myself, and I knew that like if I were to, every time I was feeling like contractions, I wanted to cry, and if I were to cry, I was gonna lose that control, and it was just gonna go downhill from there. So I didn't want that to happen. So I don't regret the decision at all. I'm glad I made a decision. And yeah, so I got the epidural, which it was an interesting process. It didn't hurt getting the epidural. It was definitely like uncomfortable. It was scary because I was having contractions like so intense, and she was like, yeah, we're gonna have to do this right through your contract. I was like, no, can we wait, because there's one coming right now and like I don't want to move. She was like, okay, well, I'm gonna finish preparing this, but once we start, if you get one, like we're just gonna walk you through it. So I think for my husband, that was like the scariest experience that he kind of lived that night, because he was just said the whole thing is like straight up business. Like they just want to make sure you really want it and like getting it done right. So I got it, and it was like night and day. I am so glad. I had no side effects. Like I had no headaches. I didn't feel like not like nauseated. I've heard people say that like they felt like a little bit out of it, or like their vision was blurry. So I didn't feel none of that. At this point, like I said, it was like by the time they gave it to me, it was like 5:30 in the morning or so. I would say fast forward to 7 o'clock in the morning, I start feeling this urge like I need to poop. And I heard everyone tell me like once you're ready to push, it's gonna feel like you need to poop. So I called to the nurse and I was like, hey, like I really feel like I need to poop. So she checked me. She was like, you're at 9 centimeters. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. She's like, yeah, well, you need to get to 10. So you're gonna feel the need to push, but you can't push. Don't push. So it's like from 7 a.m. to like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm feeling like I need to push, like I need to poop and I need to push this poop out. And she's telling me like obviously couldn't. So every time like my contraction would come, which it's like every minute and a half, I had to like breathe through it and like not allow my body or myself to push. And it wasn't painful, but it was definitely hard. It was very, very hard. Just because like when you want to use the bathroom, like you're just gonna go, like imagine 2 hours, like you really feel like your poop is right there and you need to like poop, but you can't, like you have to hold it in. It was really uncomfortable. It was hard. But I did it. So I just closed my eyes, I'll breathe through it, I'll feel the pressure. I wouldn't feel pain, but I'll feel the pressure of the contractions, and I would feel like I needed to poop. But I will hold it in. So I would say like at 9 o'clock she came in the room and she was like, are you pushing? Because I don't think you're pushing. And I was like, I'm not. You told me not to. Like I've been trying to hold it. So she's like, yeah, well, I think your body's starting to do it on its own. So let me check you. So she went to check. She was like, yep, I see his head. He's crowning. And she was like, this is it. The doctors came in. Everyone came in. We got ready. And in the process of that, I had a total of 4 contractions, and each contraction, the doctor asked me to push 3 times. So he came within like 10 to 15 minutes. I only pushed him 10 to 15 minutes, which is amazing because a lot of people, like I know, she said it could be quick, it could be an hour. There's some people that last like 5 hours pushing. So yeah, mine was like 10 to 15 minutes. It was an amazing experience. The last push was like the push that I had to try the hardest. So it wasn't that it was easy, but it wasn't like hard. But I would say the last push was the hardest. Just knowing that those moments of like she keeps telling you to push, I'm like, are we there yet? But yeah, so 10 to 15 minutes. At the very end, I felt like a sting. It didn't hurt, it didn't burn, but I knew, I was like, that's it, like I ripped. But I only had like the first degree tear. I only needed like 1 or 2 stitches. I can't remember how many stitches, but it was only the first degree. And yeah, that was pretty much it. They laid him down on me for an hour. They sit on my chest, and my husband and I held him. And right after the hour was up, they took him to get his weight and all this stuff, and they wanted to see how I was doing, and it was like, let's see if you can stand up. So they had me stand up and kind of just wait, so I didn't feel like nauseous or that I wanted to like faint, but it felt great. The moment I got out of bed, I was like, yeah, this is good. And then they sent me back down. Phil's parents came in, and like there were people in the room holding the baby now. We're waiting to get moved into our room, and I was just up like walking around already. It's been definitely like an amazing experience for sure. When I was at the hospital, when they moved me for my room, like my lower back did hurt. It just felt really sore, and they said it was normal, that you're gonna feel that for like about a week or so. So I felt that soreness on my back, my lower back, but it was because of the epidural. But besides that, like I felt great, like I was walking around. But yeah, so that's been my experience. I definitely would love to next time like try again to not get an epidural. I would love to experience without one, but it all depends. Like I said, I know I've heard, and I did my research, and I loved like asking questions and asking people like what they experience. And I just thought it was pretty cool what they said of like, you know, I did it without an epidural and it went great, or I did it with it and I loved it and I'm gonna do it again with it. It really depends on like how your health is, how your baby's health is. There's so much that falls into it. But yeah, I did it and I love it, and I think women are amazing. Women are beautiful and they're great and they're strong. And I'm just so glad that I went through it. I can't wait to go through it again. As crazy as it sounds, like the same week I was like, I wish I could go back in time and like relive every moment. It's just so beautiful. You definitely feel like empowered. You definitely feel amazing. And just to know that you carried something for 9 months and you created something so beautiful. It's such a reward. It's such a gift. So yeah, that's my story. I know it's a little long, but whoever wants to watch it, it's gonna be people that kind of just want to know. So anyways, I can't wait to have another baby because babies are so much fun, and I hope to breastfeed as much as I could, at least 6 months. That's the plan. Oh, that's another question people ask about breastfeeding. If I am breastfeeding, pumping, or both, or formula too. I am not doing formula at all. I'm strictly just breastfeeding. I am pumping, not a lot or not every day, but I try to do it once a day so that my husband can feed him once at night. So yeah, he feeds him once at night sometimes so I can sleep more, but I'm strictly breastfeeding, or giving him breast milk. I am gonna go back to work, so I'm gonna pump a lot more, and I'm gonna pump at work. So that's the plan. Like I said, I want to do it for at least 6 months. I'm not doing formula. I would be obviously open to it if he wasn't latching or if I wasn't producing enough milk, but I am producing more than enough, and he is latching. So, and I enjoy it. It's like such an amazing like moment, like to just like see his eyes looking up at me, like just like thank you for feeding me. Like I don't know, it's just amazing. But yeah, and thank you, Jax, for keeping me company.